Peace, peace. You know what it is. It's your man SKYZOO Skyzoo live from the borough, and this is the Pay Me No Mind podcast.
This is Ray Flores, ring announcer for Premier Boxing Champions. You are listening to the Pay Me No Mind podcast with my man Wood.
Oh, the Magic Man Malinaji giving a big shout out to the Pay Me No Mind podcast.
What's up, everybody? This is Swift Jerry Hurd, 20-0, 14 knockouts, the new IBF champion of the world, and I'm right here with the Pay Me No Mind show.
Yo, it's your boy John Connor, and you checking out the Pay Me No Mind podcast. It's Aftermath, and ain't nothing after that. Flint, we in the building. It's Connor, what?
You are listening to
Pay Me No Mind
with show host Wood.
What's good, family? This is your man Wood. This is the Pay Me No Mind show, as you just heard. It's June 8th, 2018. I'm sure you know that. Again, the Pay Me No Mind show, also known as Better Off Dead. What's good? What's good? It's a lot going on. Man, I've been working on this show for like a whole week, and energy level is all over the place because, you know, I'm waiting on calls to make sure I get a certain interview or I don't. Do I have to write the show a different way or put together the talk, the discussions on the show differently and everything? And then, as it happens every time, I get a little burnt out and, you know, whatever. But anyway, this show is kind of like a prelude to the Claressa Shields fight coming up June 22nd with, I just went blank on that. Hanna Gabriels. For the middleweight title. Actually, it's 2 belts up for grabs. But this is for kind of centered around that. So tonight's guest, let's start with that. Franchon Crews-Dezurn is on the show tonight. She'll be fighting that night up in Detroit, June 22nd. She's facing Crystal Byers. But, you know, I had Franchon on because she's fought Claressa already. And then she's part of the promoter who's holding that fight that night, which is going to be a SHOWTIME Boxing Special Edition event is what I believe it's billed as, not a ShoBox card. So, sorry about that. I had to change something on my screen real quick that I was looking at. So Franchon is on here just to talk about the fight. I'll tell you now, some of her audio was a little shaky because she was on her way to training. So here and there, some things are a little hard to hear or make out. I'm going to try to clean it up as much as I can with my limited editing skills. But Franchon Crews-Dezurn is on the show tonight talking about her June 22nd fight. And if you can imagine, I mean, she didn't have a whole lot to say about that night's main event and co-main event with Christina Hammer facing Tori Nelson before the main event for Claressa. But she said what she could say. You know, you got to be a little selfish in the world of boxing, and you know, I don't knock her for that. Also on the show tonight is Reis. I actually spoke to Kaylee before Franchon and was kind of waiting to see whether or not I was going to get in touch with Franchon or not. But Kaylee, you know, I talked to her to get some perspective because she's actually fought, I believe she fought Tori Nelson, and I know she fought Christina Hammer. So it was kind of, you know, I wanted to get her input, you know, for women's boxing and whatnot. And then also, you know, Kaylee is coming off the huge fight for, you know, for women's boxing, with it being the co-main event a couple of weeks ago, or maybe over a month ago now. Yeah, definitely over a month ago, a month and a few days. For Triple G's last fight against Venus Martirosyan on HBO, with her and Cecilia Braekhus being the first 2 women, or the first women's bout featured on HBO. And that did some humongous numbers. Kaylee actually talked about some things that we might not have known that went on in the lead up to the fight. And I just think it's very interesting what she had to share about that. And she's also fighting on June 30th. So we talked about her upcoming fight, you know, and kind of some of the the momentum that performance gave her, or, you know, the boost for her career, being in such a high profile moment for women's boxing. And coincidentally, Joe Smith Jr. is making his return on that card that she's fighting on. He's the headliner on that, I believe, in Uncasville, the Mohegan Sun. So Kaylee is on here to talk about that. I had a timestamps and everything in the description, so feel free to skip over me and jump to who you came on to hear. You know, that's not going to rub me the wrong way in the least. And then also on the show is Jericho O'Quinn, a bantamweight out of Detroit, Michigan, undefeated, a rising guy, but he's also fighting June 22nd on the untelevised portion of the It's Our Time to Shine card, Showtime Boxing, Salita Promotions, and all that. So Jericho came on to talk about what he has going on. I put an article out there a couple months ago about his last fight up in Warren, Michigan. He was successful against and my man's name skips my mind, my memory right now, but I know his last name was Otieno, and I think they fought 6 rounds, because I believe this is Jericho's first 8-round fight. But if you talk to anybody in Detroit, most of the boxers, I mean, you know, the Jericho's name has been pretty hot in the city the last couple of years as one to watch. That's talking to Cornelius Bundridge, not Tony Harrison, but Pain Server. Leonardo Tyner was very complimentary of young Rico, and you know, so get to learn something about him. Also on that card that night will be Lethal, Leon Lawson. It might be the third, but young Lawson will be back in action that night. And there's a couple other guys, just some articles that I have out there on goingfor2.com. Bakhtiar Ayubov, excuse me for his last name, I'll probably mess that up, but he's facing Nicholas Javon. So that card is coming together. Like I said, I don't know who all is going to be televised just yet, other than Claressa Shields versus Hanna Gabriels, and then Christina Hammer versus Tori Nelson, which I believe at first they were just going to show highlights of that fight, I believe, but that's the co-main event. So let me jump into it, man. I wanted to start with some entertainment. I hadn't been able to speak on my entertainment lately, but a lot has been going on. I think I might leave my TV series off of this one and just talk about a couple of music things. First, always being a hip-hop head that I am, has anybody heard the DJ Premier, the remix to J. Cole's 1985? I think they named it 1966, but dope joint. I mean, you know, right now, J. Cole is getting a lot of burn right now for the KOD album, which was phenomenal. That might be 2 months old at this point and whatnot, but ESPN and ABC, you know, for the finals and whatnot, and the conference championships, they really ran heavy with promoting KOD and J. Cole's. They've taken a couple of tracks, I believe, as kind of like the soundtrack of the playoffs. So I'm very sure. But I think the 1985 joint is actually the closing song on there. And I just remember back in the day when the finale, that used to be a very prominent term in listening to hip hop back in the 90s. The early 90s and whatnot, was like, what's your finale? You got to go out with your main joint, for most records. I don't listen to a lot of the records that come out nowadays, so I don't know if that's still the concept behind albums. But, you know, usually the hottest track is like either like the second or the third joint. And then, back in the day, that final song used to be like the most personal song on the album, and that's kind of what J. Cole did with that 1985 joint, where he was really speaking to some of the little blank You know, all the different MCs right now. I think I saw somebody's clip on a post on Instagram yesterday that Spotify has like, it's either 7,000 or 8,000 rap artists right now in their catalog, or, you know, in their database, or whatever you want to call it. Their artist list is 8,000 rappers with the name Little. And I remember back in the 90s when it wasn't one rapper that had the same name, or, you know, everybody, you just couldn't be Lil Pump or Lil Coffee or you know, you couldn't have any of these simple names that you see nowadays. So, but that's crazy that there would be 8,000 guys who just said the hell with being, you know, standing out and being original. I'm just Lil something, Lil Crew, Lil Bump, or whatever it is. But check out that 1966 joint. The only bad thing about it is that it's not in a true sense of a remix where he got a new feature or added a new verse or just all new verses. It really just took the lyrics from the 1985 joint, put it over, you know, a sample beat that Premier put on it. But it definitely adds a different feel to the song, and was one of the dopest, you know, singles that I heard in the last 2 weeks. So other than that, Streams of Thought Volume 1 from Black Thought and Ninth Wonder, super producer Ninth Wonder, and the Soul Council dropped, I want to say last Friday. It was only 5 tracks long, which they, you know, they let it be known before it dropped that it was going to be short, which is actually 2 tracks less than the trend that Kanye West is trying to create right now in the game. I was just reading before I talked with Franchon and got on here, was that they're doing a Ye challenge right now, hashtag Ye challenge, where they're taking all the classics over the last several years and condensing them down to the best 7 songs of each album, and just asking, you know, followers to critique the songs that they selected as what the album would be if it was repurposed in the vein of what Kanye has going on right now. And my main thought for that was, I don't know if, you know, when did Kanye West get to tell me what is acceptable in hip hop for album length? Like, this is a guy wearing the MAGA hat, the Make America Great Again hat, the autographed cap a couple of weeks ago. His choice of wife, you know, his choice of woman for his wife. You know, no real shot at Kim on a personal level, but I mean, she has her qualities, you know, business wise and whatnot. But and not even going back to the sex tape that she really got on for, but just in general, you know, his choice of woman. I'm not sure Kanye is the dude to really speak for me on what's what with hip hop. But I will say, from the supply side of things, and what the data or the trends or the perceptions or whatever, looking at listeners' preferences and whatnot, maybe it's something credible, you know, substantive to what goes into Kanye suggesting that 7 songs is the perfect length of an album right now. That might be because the attention spans of you know, today's music buyers. But I'm still an album guy, and that's been great with Damn, Rhapsody's, Layla's Wisdom joint, J. Cole, Royce the 5'9", The Book of Ryan. You know, it was great to see album making come back to the forefront. So anyway, let me get back to this Streams of Thought, man. I mean, Streams of Thought. The one downside to it is that Making of a Murderer featuring Styles P actually came out about a year or a year and a half ago. So it's really 4 new songs. And I think my main criticism, you know, it didn't even make it through the first weekend. I walked my dog, you know, like 3 or 4 times, and you know, that was what I was listening to, was the Streams of Thought. And I got back to work Monday or Tuesday, and it was like I needed something new. So I think in a rush to satisfy the people that had been waiting on Thought to put an album, a solo joint out and break away, spin off from the roots. And, especially after that 10.5-minute freestyle with Funk Master Flex a couple of months ago, I think everybody was really waiting on Thought to come out. And those that have been waiting for, 5 years plus, I really think in hindsight, if this was your first solo project, that maybe you should have held off and really made it as monumental of a moment as it really is, and not cheapened it going with this four brand new tracks. But the intro track, the intro track on it, 215, is one of my favorite singles to be listening to right now. I don't have the rest of the playlist on me at the moment, but it's a phenomenal project. Some good workout material. The one thing that if I had a couple of words to critique it with, just a couple of words, is that it's borrowing a phrase for him where he said this is elder statesman conversation on one of the later tracks, like 3 or 4 or something. But yeah, it's grown, mature hip hop listeners. There's a lot of bars. I think Rhapsody is on there. She has a feature. Like I just mentioned, Styles P is on there. And I think it's a vocalist on a song, on the last song on the joint. The name of it might be Thankful and whatnot. But the one thing that I think, in listening to it, I was very impressed at how different Ninth Wonder's sound was that he provided for this project. And then also, quick shout out to Ambrosia for Heads, if that's one of the blog sites that you follow. But Ambrosia for Heads had they had an article from Amanda Mester. I think I've been in touch with her a couple of times trying to get her on here to talk about some hip hop. But she did mention that Black Thought has more material coming, and it's coming very soon. She wrote an article about that. So this is volume 1. It's a chance that volume 2 won't be released at the same time as Infinity War 2, The Avengers. It's not really, I don't think it's slated for 2019 release. I think he might have something come a lot sooner than that. So for anybody that likes some traditional or vintage sounding hip hop, be sure to check out that Streams of Thought. Holler at me online if you want to talk about music. It kills me that all of us are on social media. We have our Instagram posts and our tweets about the stuff that we F with, but none of us really F with one another about the same stuff that we like, the same fights that we're sitting there watching, but we don't really interact with one another or credit one another, but then we wonder why Anthony Bourdain took his life today. And then the Spade, the designer, I can't remember, Katie Spade. I don't want to mess up her first name, but the designer that, committed suicide last week. We wonder why, people are feeling alone out here. I think it's 22 veterans of the armed forces, 22 of them that commit suicide. I hate to say if that's today or a week. I forget what the horrible statistic is, but we wonder why people are feeling lonely out here, but we don't even build with one another when we know that we have these strong interests in common and everything. So, but, I didn't mean to take it there, but, if you do want to talk about Streams of Thought or the Book of Ryan, Royce the 5'9's project that came out a couple of weeks back, holler at me on Twitter at _E_ pluribus, PLURIBUS _Wood, WOOD. Let's talk about it. The other thing, this was when I kind of wrote my talking points down. Pusha T and Drake was going on until OG Jay Prince came out there with Sway and said that he shut it down. A shout out to it's a spoken word artist out of Columbus who had a hilarious, a unique and an all-time tweet. But he said that he wished it was something to the effect of he wished that he could get Jay Prince to tell Fannie Mae to leave him, or Sally Mae, if he could tell Sally Mae to leave him the hell alone, since I guess you had to be there for it to be funny. But with Jay Prince coming out and saying that he told Drake to shut down the beef, and then we didn't hear a response back to the what was that? The Adidon joint. I forget what it was by Pusha T. But what was that? The Story of Adidon, like the Story of OJ by Jay. But I'm not gonna get too big into that beef because I didn't have a favorite. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't dislike Pusha T, but for some reason I've just never really connected with his music. I've never really connected with him as a MC. I never bought an album, never bought a Clips album, but that's just me. I have enjoyed catching some interviews of Pusha T, and I've heard a verse here too where I caught a bar or two that was slick, but for me his style just has never really resonated with me. And then as far as Drake, I never bought any Drake material singles either. I just copied a couple from my wife's iPod. But I know Drake works hard. I know the boy constantly has material out there. I just always wondered, for the last 8 years or whatever, I just always wondered why Drake had a pass as being like a connected dude, or actually he's connected to Jay Prince, so that probably goes a long way. If you listen to some of the Mayweather stories back in the day, of Mayweather getting some help from Jay Prince. But I just never understood how he could use the N-word a bunch, unzip his tracksuit down about 3/4, and then put a cigar in his mouth, and that he was somehow like Super Drake. I never really understood how he got a pass. If you know how he started out, as far as messing with Little Brother and Fonte and whatnot, he was a completely different artist. But I understand, people saw that he's a moneymaker, good personality, and very versatile, very versatile. So I could see why, some of the rappers who are more street oriented, how he was embraced and used in hooks and used for verses. He's a hell of a writer, and when he gets his ghostwritten material and whatnot, it is what it is. But I was just glad that somebody at least spoke up to kind of pull Drake back down to earth a little bit and put the right type of pressure on him in boxing parlance. I just thought that was interesting, to see that for a minute. But other than that, I was kind of glad that Kanye spoke up and said that it was over. And then Jay Prince kind of completely shut it down with his visit to, to Sway in the Morning. So that was my music stuff that I wanted to get into. I will say I would like to really go into some of my TV series that I'm keeping up with right now. But I am a little pressed for time. This is going to be a really long podcast. But like I said, the timestamps will be out in the description and everything. But I just want to know, man, like, is anybody effing with Billions this year? On Showtime Sunday nights, I think they might only have one episode left. I believe this weekend might be the finale. But one of my favorite shows, man, very mature show. Complicated, sophisticated and all of that. It was very interesting this year because the principals on the show, Bobby Axelrod being the protagonist, maybe the antagonist if you like the bad guy, and then Chuck Rhodes being on the other side is the U.S. Attorney General who was going after Axe in the first 2 seasons. And this year, getting into season 3, I want to say this is season 3. Yeah, this is season 3. But Chuck Rhodes had been after Axe for like 2 seasons trying to lock him up. Axe runs a company called Axe Capital, who's a fund manager, I guess, and does a lot of shady things to, to be managing like $20 billion, worth of capital and whatnot. And Chuck Rose just had a hair up his butt the last couple years about arresting him for breaking the law. And he really had Axe cornered. But what we've seen is that all of the tactics and the shady things that Axe does to get the upper hand in the securities exchange game, Chuck Rhodes bends the law the same way to make his cases. And he crosses the line quite a bit. And like I said, I saw a quote last week on something on Twitter about, if you make any person your enemy, you become that person, to beat them. And it kind of matched up perfectly with what we're seeing on Billions. But this year, the interesting thing was that Chuck Rose did have Bobby Axe in his crosshairs at the, as the cliffhanger from last season. And we thought that Bobby was going to have to spend some jail time. He actually lost his right to trade because it was a case that was brought against him. And this year we thought the case was going to play out and that we would see Axe in, going through the trial and possibly serving some time. But what happened was, the kicker here is that Chuck Rhodes, the U.S. Attorney General, his wife actually works at Axe Capital as the doctor or the therapist that she kind of, she has a weird role, but she kind of, so all of these people at Axe Capital are very high-strung individuals who are pushed to make money and to earn every day, just like out on the streets, hustling. And so they all go see Wendy Rhodes, who is Chuck's wife, the Attorney General. They go in and talk to her about, handling the pressure of performing and meeting the demands at Axe Capital. But she doesn't touch none of the money. She just, mentally massages the workforce on the floor. But last year, as her husband was setting up this huge trap for Axe, she was listening to what Axe was reacting to make this big play, to make millions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars. And so she went and made this trade based on some information that she heard floating around, in the scuttlebutt. And then as the investigation got going, the key thing that came out was that somebody saw her trade go through, and it kind of really solidified that it was some shady, practices going on of how Axe Capital knew to make this play. So Wendy was going to go to jail right along with Bobby Axelrod. And it came down to very early in this year when we thought that Axe was going to finally go to jail or prison. Bobby and Chuck had to join together to keep Wendy out of prison, and they had to help each other so that everybody went free or stayed free. So very quickly in the season, this whole rivalry that was going on the past 20 episodes was quickly dissolved, spoiler alert, because they had to work together, and Chuck is over there moving the evidence around against his understudy in the first 2 seasons, who was now heading up the case against Axelrod. So they get together and everybody goes scot-free, and it's like 6 or 7 episodes left for the season, and we're sitting here wondering, what are they going to do? Now that the beef is off, what the hell are we going to do? So that's what's been interesting the past few weeks, and that's what we find ourselves going into the season finale, is that Axelrod actually, in his absence, when he wasn't able to actually trade, he had put his best pupil in charge of Axe Capital in his absence. And she happens, well, it's not even she, it's She has those pronouns because she's non-binary. She looks like a female, but she doesn't relate or associate herself with male or female. And her name, or their name is Taylor. I think it would be their. Their name is Taylor. And Taylor is she's a, well, I don't know, they're a beast. They're a beast with numbers and reasoning, logic, critical thinking, analysis, all of that stuff. Taylor is not to be messed with. And she doesn't have any, they don't have any vices. Whereas Axelrod, Axelrod makes a lot of his money by information that nobody else knows, that he pays top dollar to get or to know. And that's how he's built his empire. But Taylor can simply do it by the books, by looking at charts and all of that financial stuff, and is almost as equally as effective as Bobby. So what's been going on is Bobby comes back and resumes control of his company and takes it back over from Taylor. Taylor, or they, wants their own, they want $20 billion of their own to deal with, because they don't want to go back to the floor or to be with the rest. Taylor now feels, since I earned all of this money in your stead, I've proven myself, let me run. But Axe doesn't been like that. So on the last episode, they just had an issue with Taylor wanted $50 million for her their bonus to be compensated, and Axe only wanted to give like 10 million. And so what we're going into in the finale is what we learned in the last episode, is that Taylor has actually been building their own empire the last couple of weeks with this algorithm that they developed, or they started and then handed over to some MIT cats or whatever. And this algorithm is meant to do all the trading that Axe's whole workforce group of guys, which is made up of this cat named Dollar Bill and McPhee and Ben Kim and one brother, and then a couple other people that don't say as much. But hey man, if you're not on Billions is good TV. It's great TV. But anyway, in this finale, Bobby has given that scowl to Taylor a couple of times as Taylor walked out of his office, because, and he knows, he has to sense that it's been building. And Wendy has actually talked to Taylor, and she knows that something is happening with Taylor too. But at the end of the last episode, as Taylor walks out of this off-site location they've set up, they walk by this sign that says Mason or Taylor Mason Capital or something, but it's like the new logo for their company. And they didn't take the 50 million. They had like 2 or 3 meetings on the compensation that they expected, and Bobby didn't give in to giving the 50 million, but he gave like 20 or 25 million and then said, well, I'm gonna give you 20 billion, in capital to manage. So basically Taylor is going to take this 25 million and open up her own shop. Boom. Let's get into it. We'll move on from there. I'm going to take a quick break, and then I might have some sport takes to get into. And then we'll jump into these guests. I know the game is coming on in like an hour and a half. I got to edit this and do some post stuff and everything to get this posted. I'm running late. But I'm going to take this break, and I do want to come back and talk about LeBron James and the Cavaliers and the finals.
3 shows, 1 podcast. The Talk Loud Radio podcast combines sports, nerds, and pop culture with the Pay Me No Mind Show. Just down-to-earth sports and entertainment. The Clash of the Nerds Let's Podcast Show. The latest movies and video games with a dash of comedy. And the Armchair Fantasy Show. 8. Sleep, fantasy sports. Find Talk Loud Radio on all the major podcast services like iTunes and Stitcher at talkloudradio.com and streaming on the Going for Two app for iOS and Android. Talk Loud Radio, where sports, nerds, and pop culture collide.
So look, I'm back. Should be a commercial right there, but last week the commercial, even though I put it there, it didn't make it into the final mix, and I was a little disappointed because we went through we put out a new commercial for Talk Loud Radio, which is myself, Armchair Fantasy, Let's Podcast, Clash of the Nerds with Josh McCain, Armchair Fantasy being Jeff Lambert, and then we just added a new cat who's jumping on the sports bandwagon. My bad. Freudian slip. Sports betting, with it being legalized, I think it's Matt Sandell is getting ready to start doing something heavy with betting. You know, do what you want with your own money, taking his word for whatever he puts out there. I've read some of Matt's stuff on goingfor2.com, but I don't play fantasy, so whatever. But I think that's what he's going to be focusing on with his show. But this is the Pay Me No Mind show. Hey, before I get into my sports takes, also another show that I'm not going to go into it here. Maybe next week I'll recap where we are with Showtime's I'm Dying Up Here, which is about stand-up comedy in the 70s. Lot to say on that, but we'll get to that next time. Hey, what I wanted to talk about, man, is LeBron James. I'm not the biggest LeBron fan. I'm from Ohio. Coincidentally, man, my mother-in-law's 50th birthday, LeBron James, as a high school senior, was actually his team. We were having a party in the hotel in downtown Dayton, and LeBron was playing a game at the University of Dayton. His team, St. Vincent St. Mary out of Akron. They were playing the best team in Dayton, which was Alter, and they actually ended up meeting a month or so later in the state finals in the finals, and it was a closer game. But they played at the University of Dayton. And, you know, coming down from Akron, they stayed at a hotel for the game, and it was damn near a blizzard that night or that weekend, and it was a girls' volleyball tournament at this hotel. My mother-in-law's 50th birthday, 50th birthday party, and then LeBron and his team were running around. All the girls, all these high school girls were out in the lobby, and then LeBron and his team running through the lobby. And we were in there with a DJ and everything, and LeBron it was a balcony up top, and like LeBron kind of led his guys through in like a single file lane with all of them doing little dances and stuff to the music that we were playing, the DJ was playing, and that's how kind of like LeBron crashed my mother-in-law's birthday party. And then the next day, I took my mom and my wife. We went to the game to watch them blow Alter out. I think they won by 20 or 25 or something. But in the state final game, a month or so later, Alter actually made it like I think it was a 5-point game or something. So that was kind of a little nugget out there of my one-time, interaction with. See, the Pay Me No Mind show could really be a big deal right now if I would have done like Windhorse and, snuck off for a minute and say, hey, Bron, I got this podcast, Anyway, but what more can the man do? For all of the people out there this week, all of the mainstream media guys this week who have to make a 3-hour show on the radio or a 2-hour television show, to talk about how lame is that all of the shows have to talk about the fact that LeBron wore shorts, a suit with, the bottom being shorts. Like I could see if it came up on one station or, you refer to it, but for it to be like a defined talking point for each show, that's the reason nobody watches that stuff no more. That's why I don't watch the whole lineup that they have in the early afternoon for ESPN, and you just get a different panel that all talks about the same 10 topics. That's just lame to me. Like, you don't give listeners credit. But anyway, for Cowherd, let's start there. Cowherd comes out, his big idea, his brilliant, and Cowherd is a beast. But Cowherd comes out and says that LeBron could sit out next year, heal up, stay fit, not get in any bad contractual situation and be obligated to a team, and he could let the bad contracts in Cleveland expire, and then he could come back and try to bring like Paul George, Chris Paul, maybe a Boogie Cousins or somebody, whoever the prime, free agents are next year. He could come back to the game, preserve his body, a la Gary Russell Jr. style, and play the following season. And he was serious about this. He thought he had like cracked the Hammurabi code or something. Like, I got this dope idea. And usually I roll with like 80% of the things that Colin Cowherd throws out there because he is what he is. But come on, bruh. Like, do you really think that LeBron was on earlier in the rounds, LeBron said, my life, the priorities or the hierarchy of what I rock with is basketball and then my family and then blah, 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 and business and whatever, my brand and whatever. But he did clean it up because he came back and said that my family knows this and they're on board with this and they know that basketball is my life and that comes first. And he was like, I thank God for for having that type of family with that understanding is okay. So if he said this, how in the hell are you going to get LeBron to sit out a year, give up a year of his career? That's just not even feasible. So I give Cowherd had to take an L on that idea right there. Stephen A came out today and said it was 7 teams that LeBron would be speaking to this year. And that's one thing that I really hate about the NBA, man, is that you can actually talk about clearly, openly, publicly talk about teams that you're considering going to. It can get leaked, and it's coming from, it's the stuff that doesn't get reported, but these meetings are being set up right now. It sucks if you're a Cleveland fan, and living in Cleveland and are a true diehard fan of the franchise, but this is the kind of loyalty that you get. Oh, that's just this new age player that we have. But the names that jumped out to me was one, Golden State, which somebody out there in the mainstream sports talk already said it'd be like Thanos or that was Jimmy Kimmel actually. But Golden State, I thought that was crazy. And then Miami, I thought that was crazy. I think Philadelphia was on there, Houston, San Antonio, Cleveland, and then I forget who the last one was. But do what you got to do, but I just think, man, at 34 years old, it really may not be that attractive or appealing to really go somewhere that you don't know and deal with a dozen or more things that you don't know, that you're uncomfortable with. And it might look good to go somewhere else, but I really think that LeBron could sit back, see who they get with this number 8 pick. You're probably not getting a Jason Tatum. You may not find the next Donovan Mitchell, but you might get somebody who comes in and averages 12 to 14 points a game and can do some of the young athlete stuff that LeBron no longer wants to do or needs to do. And you might find that type of pick to where next year could just be essentially a throwaway year to where, somewhat similar to Cowherd's idea, you can be on the team, but we really don't have any expectations because we're building to the next year. Now, I know LeBron enters every season with the media expecting him to get a championship. I get that. But instead of sitting out a year, which would never even happen, but you really could just go through the season with no expectations, see what we do with this rookie, see who we were able to bring in this year, and then after that, you let some of these, you change out the roster and get rid of some of these guys, and then you try to get Paul would, you could see if George came there this year, or a CP3 if he came there, or a Kawhi Leonard. You can see what happens this year, but at the end of it, it almost seems like Stan in Cleveland might be the best thing to do. Because if you don't want to go somewhere, you got to get used to a new owner, a new team owner, a new team president. You got to get used to how they run their shop. You got new players to mess with. But I will say, I do think Houston is a very attractive place for him. It will be something to consider. But Houston has to take care of its roster issues. They have some personnel decisions to make. But that's going to be, but the only thing is that you'd have to meet Golden State in the Western Conference Finals. I thought it was very asinine for the media to really question LeBron altogether on his conduct in the last before the time in the timeout before overtime in Game 1. I think they expect this guy to be Ivan Drago. LeBron was just dealing with the call. That was the first time in history that we've seen a foul call reversed. He's dealing with that. He has like 45 or 46 points in regulation. 80-some% free throw dude is on the line, and George Hill. And I don't know if y'all saw this, but George Hill was shook as hell before he took that second shot. Before the ref gave him the ball, he did not look like he was in it. It didn't look like that shot had a chance in hell of going in if you looked at what he was doing before he took that ball off the bounce from the referee. But we famously know, or infamously, or, in infamy now, the moment of JR not knowing what was going on. But a day later, all of the mainstream people had to go and show the footage of what LeBron did in the timeout. And if I did everything that I did, if I'm him and I did everything that I did in that game, and now my coaching staff and kind of like my third in command, who's been along in this ride, if you saw JR grabbing that Eastern Conference trophy 2 weeks ago, if you saw him grabbing that up, you're my third in command and you don't know what the hell is going on out here. And then my coaching staff didn't know what was going on out here. I can act how I want to act in the damn huddle. I'm tired. You know what I'm saying? I'm fatigued. I am tired. I just got us through all of these rounds. I had us on the cusp of winning an important game, a crucial game in the finals, helping all of you all get closer to a ring, and none of you had the gumption to know what the hell was going on. So we can blame, we can go back and blame it on George Hill for missing the free throw. We could ask, why wasn't LeBron why wasn't he down on which I believe he had stepped out. But why were you out at the top of the thing instead of where the ball had a chance to be? And then lastly, what in the hell was Kevin Durant doing at 6'11", 7 foot, weighing $150, I know, but not getting, that rebound? So anyway, but like I said, it just seemed asinine for the, the sports media to try to manufacture a talking point to go at LeBron. So anyway, tonight in about an hour, Game 4 goes down. The whole question is whether or not they can win one, or if it'll be a gentleman's sweep with a 4-1 series. Excuse me. I don't know, man. I think my analysis, if I had to give an analysis, I think we'll know before the first TV timeout is like, 8 minutes? I think we'll know by then whether or not we can get our, if we got something to do on a Friday night, if you still, running these streets, cutting these corners and whatnot, or bending these corners. I think you're going to know by that first TV timeout whether or not you can comfortably get out and run the streets and, maybe be at a sports bar or at a bar where they have a TV or a club where they have some TVs on and you can keep an eye on the game. But for all intents and purposes, it's decided. I think about 4 minutes in, we'll know what we have, what we're dealing with and what to expect. I think LeBron could be overwhelmed and kind of could be resigned at this point. And my last point that I wanted to make, because the big thing in there is that Steph probably doesn't go 1 for 11 tonight. He probably gets his shooting together. And I doubt Slim KD can, show up with 43 tonight, but he's going to get about 28 to 35. And I would expect that Klay Thompson has a good game. But the one thing that I did want to mention before I move on, the one thing that I wanted to mention was we come to the defense of LeBron, or those that come to the defense of LeBron and say he's not playing with anybody, he's carrying these guys, he doesn't have a team, he's doing XYZ, damn near averaging a triple-double, 35 points, 40. This year we're seeing the efficiency that we've never seen. He's shooting the ball great. He's been pretty good from three. What is he averaging? 37, 8 and 8 or something. There was discussions about him still being in an MVP consideration, series MVP, even though they're losing. But I think he needed the requirement was like to win one game to be considered for that. But again, with looking at this, do any of these guys that are getting paid? I mean, the Get Up crew has a total salary of $14 million. Is anybody, and they do their thing on there. Jalen is great at what he does. But is anybody going to ever question the fact that LeBron Ball, the years that he's gotten beat, the reason that he's getting ready to go 3-6 in these finals is because LeBron Ball, he's gotten beat by the same team, the same style of team. Now, don't get me wrong. When he lost to Dirk Nowitzki the first year with the Heatles, it was Dirk and a good team, and they played good team, and they didn't miss a damn shot for like 3 games. Jason Terry, was Jesus Shuttlesworth. Ray Allen, with his shooting for a couple of games, but Josh Howard was on there. It was team ball that beat them. The 2 seasons that they lost against the Spurs, team ball. Or was it one series against the Spurs that they lost? Whatever. When they lost to the Spurs, it was team ball. And again, in the series they should have lost to the Spurs, it was team ball. Now they get to the Golden State Warriors. Yeah, LeBron was playing with the big 3 by then, but towards the end of the big 3, they were still going back to being a lot of the offense running through LeBron. And that's when Bosh disappeared because of injuries. And then they had to manage D Wade's time because of his health and whatnot. So it was back to LeBron carrying the load. And then we get to, him facing the Warriors. The Warriors obviously they have the 4 All-Stars, but it's still been team ball with great pieces. But the thing is, I just don't understand how you can have shooting guards and point guards and people that have these roles on the team that we're very familiar with, and these people never get to operate in their roles. They're watching you the whole game. And it only makes sense that as you advance through the tournament, through the playoffs, and play the best teams, after getting to the fourth round of a best of 7, you're tired. You're fatigued. Your legs are leaving. Then you've been in this 3-4 years, and you've been to 8 straight finals. So you got an extra season and a half or whatever, logged. But it only makes sense that you're getting mentally fatigued. And now the 3-point shooting that we saw against, Toronto and some of it against the Celtics, those shots aren't falling now. But when everybody is watching him dribble the ball out and waiting for him to deliver the ball, I just don't know how you get a team that's playing basketball. Another thing, I don't understand why in the hell in the NBA they do all of this switching. At the park, when I used to play pickup basketball, you might start off on somebody who you want to guard, and y'all over there cracking jokes, and it's all fun and games, and we comfortably doing our best, our thing to 11 or 12 or whatever they play to. But then after somebody on the other team scores 3 or 4 buckets and is red hot, and you look and see your player on your teammate is not giving them any resistance, you say, hey, man, let's switch. I'm going to take so-and-so for the rest of the game. And you go accept that challenge. And that's not what we saw DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry do against the Cavs before they got swept. It's not what we saw Harden go do when he let Ryan Anderson switch on to Steph Curry. It's not what we see LeBron doing, what we saw him doing in Game 3 when he switched off of KD on his way to 40 points and sent other Cavalier JR and Jeff Green and Kevin Love over to KD. So I just don't understand that. But we'll see what happens tonight. I think it could be over. Like I said, and by the that first TV timeout, I think it'll be it's 2 out of the 3 games they should have won, or they were in and didn't get it done. And I just think tonight, and I think one thing that Stephen A has probably heard but hasn't reported, and we don't have any video or audio of it, but I do think that the Warriors are a-holes like that, and that they want to, especially Draymond Green, he wants to sweep LeBron if possible. Missing that game a couple years ago, he wants to sweep them. And I think for the rest of them, we want to M'Baku LeBron James. We want to Killmonger. Is this your king? Throw that brother over the waterfall. But hey, look, I'm getting ready to get out of here, man. I got to wrap this episode up and get this posted up and everything. Hey, I appreciate 1,000% for anybody that ever rocked with the show. I never get any emails or any feedback on Twitter and whatnot. So I come in here and do this every week or every other week, and try to put out a show and tell the stories and stuff that I want to see. And, I just keep doing my thing. But anybody that does press play and listens to anything, I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Hey, check out goingfor2.com for my Boxing Wouldn't Miss for the World piece that has my predictions on the fights this weekend for Crawford, Horn, Trout, and Charlo, and then the Mares and Santa Cruz. I know I said those backwards, but I got all that out there. Hey, look, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. 1. So if you've been rocking with the Pay Me No Mind show for a while, well, it's been a while since my next guest has been on, but I want to welcome him back. We're going to talk about an important subject, some hockey, not my strong suit, but I want to welcome back to the show, Ronnie Pollock. What's going on, man?
Not much, Reggie. Thanks for having me back on. It's been a while. Good to talk to you.
No problem. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking out the time to come in and help me out with discussing the NHL. We were trying to talk before the Stanley Cup started and then before it was over, but we are where we are now, and we know we know that the Washington Capitals are now the 2018 Stanley Cup champions. But let's back up a little bit. I'm not going to try to fake the funk out here. I didn't get to check out as much hockey this year as I wanted to because I got rid of cable. And, I told you last year I jumped on board with watching the playoffs last year and the Stanley Cup. But I guess starting there, man, how come we had two new teams going into it this year to raise the Stanley Cup?
I just think right now in the NHL, the skill set or the talent is so widespread. You don't have your small monopolies as much as you used to. Late 90s, early 2000s with Red Wings, and the Blackhawks had a run really from, we'll say, 10 to 12, even 13, and then the Penguins have always been right there, and so it's kind of like a three-team race, and now things have just spread out so much with free agency and salary caps, and it's just a more balanced NHL than I think we're used to. So it kind of makes it a little more exciting because really everything matters, all the games, all the time. It's not as predictable.
Now, last year the Stanley Cup featured the Penguins and the Predators.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not even trying to fake the funk. Did both of them make it back to the postseason and just didn't make it into the Stanley Cup, or?
Yeah, so both teams were in the postseason. Washington out on the East Coast for the Eastern Conference Finals. They were playing. Oh, geez, I'm drawing a blank now all of a sudden. My mind went blank on me, but. Yes, the Penguins and the Preds made it back. The Predators were in the Western Conference,
right?
And they played Winnipeg. Winnipeg beat the Preds, and then went on to play Vegas in the finals. And Vegas obviously took the series there and made it to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Okay, so going into this thing, man, where were you with, what was your prediction, for the pairing in the Stanley Cup?
To be honest, I thought it was going to be Tampa Bay, for the East Coast, and then for the West Coast, I really was favoring Nashville and or Winnipeg, and that's kind of where I was going to put my eggs in a basket. Historically, Washington's always one of the top, we'll say, 2 or 3 teams in the NHL to finish the season, with the most points, most victories, and then historically kind of fizzle out by the second round at the latest. This is Washington's first trip back to Stanley Cup Finals since it's been 20 years, 1998, and that's the last time they were there, they lost to the Red Wings. So, historically, they're a great team, but they've just never really been able to get it done when it truly matters, and that's come playoff time. So,
I saw it was like 1,166 days or something since DC had a title in professional sports. That's since my Redskins won it all back in 91 and 92, and that's where I was born. So I've adopted some of the teams, although I don't really rock with the Wizards too tough since they changed their names. But right, so I just jumped on the bandwagon, man. Once I realized I had a horse, or I had some skin in this game, or a dog in this fight. I became an instant Capitals fans. I am very familiar with Ovechkin and everything. But so what happened here, man? I mean, okay, let's back up. The Golden Knights had some help in putting this team together, and I don't knock the NHL too much for that, because you want to bring a team into a market like Las Vegas, which hadn't had any of the representation in any of the major sports, and now they get a hockey team. You want it to go off right. And in hockey kind of being kind of just outside of the big three in sports. They want to make a splash when they make moves. So from my understanding, they had some help with getting this draft together, but I give the team all the credit in the world, the organization, because they obviously did their homework to put together a formidable group of guys. But how'd that happen?
Well, anytime you get an expansion draft, which is, a new team coming into the NHL, whether it's East Coast or West Coast, they do have this expansion draft. And basically, it's made up of where each team is required to trade a player to the expansion team. Sometimes it's players and or future round draft picks or farm team players. And really, when you get to any professional level, everyone's good. But teams will trade away maybe some players who aren't performing or some players that are eating up some salary cap that they need to get rid of. And being a new team, Vegas had obviously zero on the books, so they got room for that. But that aside, I think each of these guys went to a new organization that gave them like a new leash on life, if you will, from a hockey perspective, to where, your slates are, wiped clean, a new team, new franchise, no history. No one knows what you did last game. What are you going to do for us today and going forward? So I think the team in general rallied around that to kind of come together as a unit and play as a team, as cliche as it sounds. I think that was a huge part of it. I mean, their star player that they did pick up was Marc-Andre Fleury, multiple Stanley Cup champion with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And actually, that's one of the players they got from Pittsburgh. And you get a hot goaltender, that takes you a long way. But, even with that, Vegas had 4 goaltenders go down throughout the year. Fleury, their backup to the backup, and the backup to the backup to the backup. All were injured throughout the year. So, I think they went all the way up to a 5th-string goaltender, and they were still able to, come in second overall in the NHL in points and make it all the way to the Stanley Cup final. So I think there's something to be said with the leadership that's in that locker room and upstairs in the head offices that, there's talent there, but I think it was a lot of heart and drive to make a point, make a statement.
Now, what about the coach that they brought in? I wasn't familiar with this guy. Like I said, I'm barely a fringe. I don't even qualify as a fringe fan. But where did this coach come from? Or is it called
for the Knights?
Yeah, or is it called a manager?
No, yeah. So here, they'll have a coach, Gerard Gallant. He's an actual former NHLer himself.
Okay.
Back in the day, probably late 70s, early 80s. And I'm not sure their contract. I think he's got a 2 or maybe 3-year contract. But, in terms of his coaching career, he did coach, early, let's say late 90s in the junior hockey league. So that's kind of where he started his career. I think it was mid-90s, 95, 96. He was a junior A coach. And then you go up from the ranks from there. Goes from juniors, then he was American Hockey League coach for some time. And then went over to the Columbus Blue Jackets, was an assistant there for a little bit. And then also with the Red Wings, he was assistant coach for the Wings for a little bit. So he's had some coaching experience coming up to this. And even a head coaching position for some time with the Blue Jackets as well. And then the lockout happened. And so obviously there's no coaching going on there. So he did some international coaching as well. And then, he was a free agent, if you will, for a little bit of time, and Knights picked him up and brought him on board, and, it was a good fit. Okay. I think the same went for him too, where you get a fresh slate, regardless of what you've done in the past. Like I said, he also took some coaching positions as a head coach with Montreal, Florida Panthers. So he's been around the league, seen a lot of teams, and he had brought some experience, to the front table that these guys could use and rally around.
Okay, and we saw some similar success when the Jacksonville, the Jaguars, and the Panthers were added to the league. I want to say both of them made it to the postseason in their second years, maybe, or maybe Jacksonville made it into their second year, but then the Panthers went on and had a Super Bowl appearance and whatnot, and now Jacksonville is. I remember Jacksonville had that killer game again in the playoffs and dominated the Dolphins. I think one of the biggest deficits I've seen in the postseason. But in your estimation, are the Knights set up to be successful, in the coming years, in years 2 and 3, or is this just a flash in the pan, possibly?
No, I think Vegas is going to be successful for the next few years. Like I said, it's not like the NHL of 10, 15, 20 years ago to where, you make a run in the Stanley Cup finals, more than likely you're going to be, to the conference finals or back the very next year. But I think, their players really aren't going anywhere. They got some good draft picks coming up, and their farm team is pretty solid. So I see them being around for the next few years in terms of being a competitive team in the West. How long they can maintain this, Cinderella, if you will, story, that's yet to be seen. But, all their key components as of today are going to be coming back. So on paper, it looks like they should be able to do it again. Now it's kind of up to them.
Okay. So walk us through this, man. That I caught on like in the semifinals or the conference finals and whatnot before they made it into the Stanley Cup was kind of where I get the story that the Vegas Knights and this VGK, like who these guys actually are, as I'm looking at some of the, the scores and box scores and whatnot the last few weeks. And then I started getting an eye on them. They went up 1-0, I believe, in the series. And then what happened?
Well, they started off strong. Like you said, take the series 1-0. And then really, I think the leadership of the Capitals really stepped up from Ovechkin and their assistant captains to where, they not only became probably vocal in the locker room, but, led by example, where Ovechkin had the most points in the playoffs. Produced more than he ever has before, and really partially took the team and put them on his shoulders and took them to where they need to be. I thought Vegas played well. The power play was pretty good, penalty kill was good, but I just thought Washington was able to get to the pucks a little quicker, played a little more physical of the game than Vegas. Just were a little more tenacious on the forecheck and the back check. That small things like that make big differences, or key turnovers in the game, and the next thing you know, you got a goal, and your momentum swing is going from one side to the other. So I just think, Washington woke up in game 2 and just put the pedal to the metal and never let off. And no matter what Vegas did, they just weren't able to overcome the tenacity of Washington and the effort they were putting into it.
Yeah, do you think, because it's remarkable that a group of guys could come together in just 5, 6, 7 months, the duration of the NHL season, and kind of get the chemistry that's required to make this type of run. Do you think it boiled down to, the being on the biggest stage of the game, that they just didn't have a true elite player, franchise type player? Or just because but hockey isn't based on elite players or individuals the way that the NBA is. Did the team chemistry fail, or or what kind of led into these guys losing 4 games in a row? You kind of touched on it.
Games 2 and 3, I think, were the key components. I thought. Game 4 and 5, they played well, but 2 and 3, their top 5 guys on the roster, Carlson being one of them, were limited to 0, not limited, but they weren't able to get any shots on net.
Oh, wow.
Washington's defense just shut them down. When you have a good core like Vegas does with some of their top players, and those guys can't even get the puck on the net, it makes it difficult really to make anything happen. So I think, Washington realized who their core group was on Vegas that they need to defend. And if you can keep those guys wide and, pushing them into the boards and keeping them off the puck, that creates the ability for them not to get shot. And Washington did a great job of that, along with, great defense, a lot of block shots on Washington's points, just putting your body on the line, because that's what you got to do when it comes playoff time.
So jumping back, it goes back to Vegas. I was kind of a little confused watching the game last night because it seemed like, and actually it was a back and forth game. It got into a back and forth game, but the way that the fans seemed to be, it seemed to be too many fans cheering for Washington when Washington scored. So I was kind of confused as to where the game was even being held.
Yeah, no, there was quite a few Capitals fans that traveled for this game. I want to say they ran a statistic where they said 37% of the fan base last night was Capital fans.
Wow.
Which, for a travel game, that's really good, let alone a game that's, pretty much on the opposite coast.
Pretty much. Wow.
So that was pretty neat. And during the game, they also showed downtown Washington, right outside the rink for the Capitals, and how the streets are filled with fans, and they're watching it on the jumbo screen, and just a lot of excitement in DC. And everyone is in full force red in the metropolitan area, that's for sure.
Right. So, as we get ready to wrap this up, man, were you just shocked that it went back and forth and everything, but I thought and I was working on some boxing articles last night and didn't get to catch, but I thought the Vegas Knights did they ever go up by 2, or was it only 1?
They were only up by 1. So
okay,
Vegas took game 1, and then the Capitals, won the remaining games.
I just meant last night in the score. Were they ever able to go up by 2 goals, or just 1 goal was the biggest?
No, 1 goal differential.
Okay, that's what I thought. So were you just surprised that even because they did get up, I think 3-2, maybe they went up?
Yep.
Were you shocked that they weren't able to actually feed off of that home? Well, actually, like you just said, almost 40% of the crowd being in favor of the Capitals possibly. But were you shocked that they weren't able to pull it together and extend the series?
In a sense, I was. Maybe about midway through the second, Washington just kind of seemed deflated. They just seemed like Vegas, every time Washington would step up, make a big play, score a goal, Vegas would answer right back. And that's been Vegas' MO the entire season and through the playoffs. I will say one thing about the Knights, and if they can keep that up, is nothing seems to rattle them or faze them. Team scores a goal literally dozens of times throughout the year. They score a goal within 35 seconds after that. So I saw some of that in the Knights last night, and I kind of figured, we're going back to Washington. But that's just when the Caps just bared down and dug deep and, just outgrinded the Knights last night into just a gritty victory.
Yeah, that's what I just saw them as a resilient bunch, and I just was amazed that they couldn't put them away and hold on, and like I said, being at home, I just thought they would have extended it, but Washington just wanted it more, and like I said, it was a phenomenal game. It was great to see both teams playing at a high level going into an elimination game, and I'm wondering if we're going to see that tonight. I'm sitting here watching Golden State and Cleveland now, the opening minutes of that, and Steph just hit a phenomenal circus shot of a 3 and whatnot. But it was just a good thing, man. And like I said, one thing I tip my hat to the NHL, man, is we don't see If you don't have true elite or superstars, a team can still win, although Ovechkin is probably, qualifies as that elite superstar and whatnot.
Absolutely.
But we don't have a referee situation, the calls that we see in the NBA and everything. And it just seems to be a very enjoyable sport, man. And like I said, 2 different teams in there, not 4 years in a row like we're seeing, in the NBA pairing and whatnot. So, it was just, and the scene in Washington was phenomenal with the streets being all flooded and everything. Before I let you get out of here, man, what would be your expectations for next year, taking into consideration, maybe player moves or drafts and all of that, or who could be leaving who? Who would be your favorites going into the Stanley Cup for next year?
2 teams I would look at. I'd watch out for Winnipeg and Tampa Bay. I'm not sure if either the Caps or Knights will make it back to the Stanley Cup Finals, but some young, talented teams with some veteran leadership is the Winnipeg Jets and the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they're solid teams, and they're big, they're physical, and they're fast. So I'd look out for those guys next year come playoff time.
Okay. All right, man. I just wanted to keep this short. We went a little long. This is going to be a pretty long episode anyway, but I just wanted to get some feedback in. And, I'd gotten with you a couple times about speaking about hockey as well as golf. So we'll keep the golf thing until the next major that's coming up, and I'll get you back on here.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for having me on. Good talking to you.
Hey, before you do go, though, speaking of golf, do you think it's a chance that Tiger gets a win this year? I mean, he's been hovering around. He's had some success here and there. He's been healthy, unexpectedly, or, I guess a great thing for him. But, the body is held up better than expected. Do you think it's a chance he gets a win this year?
I think he gets 2. And it wouldn't surprise me if one of them is a major.
All right, let's just tease it with that. And like I said, hey, for anybody that's pressing play and check this out, Ronnie will be back to talk about a little bit of golf. It's kind of a good change of pace for the Pay Me No Mind show. I get to learn a little bit. But thanks for coming on, man, and sharing some thoughts on hockey. And, next year I'll try to start out. I'm actually going to try to make me a Blue Jackets game next season.
And it's a heck of a game to watch in person, that's for sure.
Okay. All right, thanks, Ronnie, man. Have a good night.
All right, Reggie, take care.
Peace. Welcome back to the program. A very special guest, my man Jericho, the Great Lake Kings O'Quinn. What's good, man?
What's going on, man?
Good to talk to you again.
It's good to hear from y'all.
Hey, so I wanted to get you on, man, because we coming up, I think we only, 18 days out now, but you'll be back in action at the Masonic Temple, June 22nd. That's a Friday night, as part of Showtime's card for Claressa Shields versus Hanna Gabriels. No, I thought I saw an opponent for you last week. Has that changed, or you still got the same guy?
Yeah, we got an opponent. We got an opponent now. I forgot his name though.
Is it the guy that was on the flyer that I saw like a week and a half ago or so? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll try to track that down when I go back and put the intro part on this interview and everything. So I wanted to get you on just, to get your name out there, man, and let everybody know that you're working hard. What's different about this fight, man?
This is my first scheduled 8-rounder, so that's a big difference. So I'm preparing different. I'm going through strength and conditioning. My conditioning is more intense. Everything, we just taking it up a level and add intensity to it.
And that's what I wanted to ask you about. I've been checking out some of the videos on Instagram and Facebook, I think, here and there, to ask you about the strength training. Any change in that for you, being that you're a bantamweight? I think that's the max limit of what, 118.
Yeah.
Any concerns? Or I mean, I'm assuming you're doing it so you're being brought along the right way. But any concerns about that playing with your weight? You know, in terms of adding any unnecessary muscle mass or anything.
No, because I walk around too big. You know, after workout I'm normally around 23, 24 or something like that. So, and I fought an amateur at 123, and I was always weighing in like 119. So I'm not a big guy. I don't cut too much weight or whatever. So fighting that bantamweight is not an issue for me. I really could make 115, which I'm probably gonna do in the near future, and shoot for a title, get a title.
Oh wow, that's interesting. So let's step back for a second. You know, for anybody that wants to get to know Rico, I got a clip of him out there on the YouTube channel, Pay Me No Mind. Go check that out from a couple of months ago after his fight up in Warren. I was wondering, man, I know you said unlike a lot of boxers that might want to say whatever, you said you do some film study and whatnot. So have you had a chance to go back and check out the 6 rounds that you put in back in Warren?
Yeah, I looked at it. It was an all right performance. A lot of people liked it and said I did good boxing. I controlled the fight with my jab and controlled my distance, and I look real relaxed in there. But this fight, I'm going to look more seasoned as a professional, and I'm going to be more comfortable in the ring. So this fight, you know, just if everything like the last time, this fight, you know, they gonna love it, you know.
Okay. Obviously, with Showtime being in town, is there any talks between your business team, you know, and management and whatnot to kind of, you know, create the relationship with Showtime or some of the executives from Showtime? I mean, this is a couple times now that you fought on a Shields card when they were in town, and you're kind of getting record-wise, you're getting to that level where you should be a candidate for at least ShoBox. So is there anything in the mix for you?
Yeah, probably in the next fight or so, you know, it'll go down for sure, you know, but, you know, it takes time to be great, you know, and I understand I gotta work my way up the ladder, you know. I ain't had it easy for me in this boxing game like most people, you know what I'm saying? So I'm building myself up. I'm taking a hard route up, you know, so I ain't plugged in with no guys who just get me straight to TV on fighting bums and nothing like that. I'm working my way up, you know. Right. So I ain't complaining on it, you know. It is what it is.
Is there any
But soon they gonna know though. Soon they gonna realize and respect my talent, my ability. They gonna respect me soon. And they gonna know that I should have been on the CV.
Is it any inspiration to you in watching the first night that I caught you in action in person? I also caught Joshua Greer Jr. Up there at the Detroit MGM Grand. Any motivation in watching what he's been able to do? You know, kind of you guys being on the same card, you know, a year and a half ago or so. Now he's had a couple of dates on ShoBox and he's in the same weight division and everything. Any motivation in watching some of his steps?
Yeah, because it's motivation because I know I belong on TV getting that same amount of shine, getting that same amount of light. But you know, he been pro longer than me. He got more fights than me, obviously. So you know, right now he got the torch. You know, he doing his thing, and I'm proud of him. You know what I'm saying? But we just once in the amateur together. You know, we actually fought in the amateurs before. So, you know,
very familiar then between you two guys.
Yeah, we're familiar with each other.
So, you know, this is gonna be a huge event. Obviously, like you said, you're moving up to the eight rounders now. You know, what's your thoughts in being a part of this night that's really, I mean, meant to highlight the women with Claressa, Christina Hammer being in town, so it's going to be some international eyes on it. And then also Franchon Crews is another female that'll be fighting that night. You worried about any of that, or is it just you're on, you know, you have your main objective?
I ain't worried about that. I mean, Claressa, my girl, you know, I respect women's boxing the same way I do men's. But, I mean, I'm going to still do the show. That's how I look at it. You know, I look at it like everybody coming to see me anyway. You know, I bring a lot of support. A lot of fans come out to watch me. So I feel like I ain't going to do no big game clown for me, you know.
Right. I definitely would say I was in the building that night for Shields' fight with LeBlanc. And you know, you had a significant amount of fans in the building that night. I believe that might have been a 6-rounder. But yeah, I mean,
a lot of people, like most people, they don't realize how much of a fan base they don't have and how many people I bring to the fights. You know, but I have a lot of strong support system in that.
Right. How's the you know, how are some of the older pros? I know a couple of guys I've asked about you, the Pain server. My man Bundridge, you know, when I mentioned the name O'Quinn, you know, in the last 2 years, everybody was extremely high on you. So, you know, are you still, you know, building those relationships and getting in the gym with any of those guys?
I mean, I knew them. I knew all these guys in the city. I knew these guys for years. So, you know what I'm saying? You know, we ain't got to see each other every day to have no close relationships. You know, all the time, that's my boy. I'm cool with Dominique, you know. I'm cool with a few guys like Eric De Leon. That's my boy. You know, we don't see each other much, but, you know, we got a mutual respect and understanding for each other. We both grinding, but, you know, we grinding at different locations. But we all got the same goal, you know. So, yeah. They train at their gym, I train at my gym.
Now, where is the strength training taking place at? Because that seems like that's not too close to where you usually set up at. Is that somewhere outside of the city, or how did that, you know, how did you select this location for your strength and conditioning?
I'm doing strength and conditioning at this gym called Pride Sports Academy. It's in Canton on Michigan Avenue and Beck. And my boxing gym is in Westland on Warren Extra Road, but I live in the city. But I travel out there to train.
Okay. Now, I mean, what made you select Pride? It seems like they have you doing some pretty advanced stuff, man. I mean, are you taking to some of this stuff, man, or is it taking you a couple of visits to get down the techniques involved in some of the stuff that you're doing?
I got connected with this gym through one of my coaches. My coach named Tony Colino. Him and Chad put me up on it. Tony Colino had to connect with it. And so we go there and work out with this guy named Ivan and a couple other strength and conditioning coaches. Here you go. Oh, so yeah, he got that connected in. And since we've been going there, you know, we ain't seen nothing but increase in power and explosion and stuff like that. So we just, you know, we implement that into our game plan. So a couple days out the week, we go there. And what was the other question you said?
Well, I just asked, for some of these moves, they seem to be really complicated. Is it taking you?
It's next level stuff. You know, it's not stuff the average. It's not something any other boxer is doing, I don't believe. But, you know, everybody got their own workouts. I feel like this is it for me. This is what working for me.
Okay, so, man, I wanted to keep it kind of short because I want to get this out here as soon as possible. You know, fight night, I mean, you got to be feeling the change in some of the strength and conditioning that you're doing. You know, how do you expect this to benefit you come fight night?
It's my first scheduled 8 round, but I don't expect it to go 8 rounds. I mean, I don't expect anybody you put in front of me to take my power. You know what I'm saying? That is how I'm feeling. I feel like anybody behind my punches is not gonna last too long. They're gonna wear down. Eventually, they're gonna get TKO'd or knocked out. That's just how I feel when the 8 ounces put on and the head is taken off. You know, it's business in there, and the power is my power is. And I think I just feel like I'm very confident in my power. I always been, but now it's like I'm really seeing the effect on it. You know, I'm really noticing the way that I'm breaking my sparring partners down and the effect that it's having on them.
Okay. Last time out, it was Nick Otieno. Are you confident that if you would have undergone this the strength and conditioning that you're doing now, do you think, because you caught the man clean all night, back in, what was that? February, at the end of February.
Yeah.
Do you think if you had taken this up then, do you think you would have been able to get him out of there?
I'm pretty confident in that. I mean, I'm pretty confident that I could have. He had a hard, thick skull, but a lot of it comes with becoming more seasoned and becoming more seasoned and comfortable as far as being in the ring as a professional. I was moving and boxing a lot where I could have mixed it up that fight and sat there in the pocket and sat there and just caught him with some solid shots, but I didn't. I was more on amateur style, just boxing, boop, boop, move, 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 when I could have just sat there in front of him and sat down on some shots for real. But I ain't never really sat down. I didn't sit down on any punches with him for real.
Okay. Hey, man, just quickly, you mentioned sparring partners and whatnot, man. Is there anybody, any other fighters coming up, behind you that, are impressing you, or you noticing their dedication to, the life of a boxer or anything? Any other cats that are catching your eyes and that we should keep an eye on?
Yeah, it's two guys out of my gym named David Fecto and Shantae Yielder. Them two guys that you gotta keep your eye on. They're 132 and 141. And then there's another guy. He out of Lansing. I've been sparring with him a couple times. We got some work at the Tony Super Bad Harrison gym. He had 132 pounder, but them guys been giving me some good. Well, he had been giving me some good work for this camp. The guy from Lansing.
Okay. All right. Hey, man, appreciate your time tonight, man. Like I said, I just really wanted to touch base with you and, get the word out on what you had going on and that you were included on the included on this card. And like I said, I'm going to go and find the name of my man so I can put that in the intro. Any final words, man, for anybody to, keep an eye out on Jericho Quinn?
Man, keep an eye out on me. I fight for you. And, follow me on this world title hunt. I'm going to get it and bring light to the city.
All right.
That's it.
That's the word. Hey, I'll be in the house that night, man. So hopefully we link up, and I'm wishing you a great performance that night.
All right, bet.
Take care, man.
For sure.
Welcome back to the show. Very special guest, Miss Kaylee Reis. How you doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad. Just want to start out by congratulating you on a great fight last month on the against Cecilia Braekhus on HBO.
Thank you very much.
Things didn't turn out in your favor that night, but I just wanted to get your reactions to, waking up the next day and seeing, or whenever it was that it was announced that the fight averaged like over 900,000 viewers and then peaked at around 1 million. So did you get any satisfaction or gratification out of, being on a stage you hadn't been on before?
I mean, the whole experience in itself was like, I can't even put it into words. It was a tremendously great experience. I mean, overall, just being the caliber of the fight it was on, even being at the StubHub Center in Cali, that was like a whole experience in itself. But I can say I'm glad nobody told me how many people were gonna watch before I went out there. It might have changed things a little bit. I might have froze. No, I was playing. But it was amazing to hear that many viewers. I mean, to peak over 1 million viewers. To be the first women's fight on HBO and just to have such great feedback and positive feedback for the performance that we put on, but not just us, but as myself as an individual as well. To be on such a huge stage was great. I mean, I'm still getting such good feedback too, and it was definitely hit the charts with that one.
Great. Did it make you feel a little bit more at home, or anything by you being able to get the ring walk that you thought it was kind of last minute with you or touchy with you making sure that happened, but it did take place? So did that kind of keep you a little grounded, going into such a big event?
Most definitely. I mean, like I said, when I have the chance to, especially when I'm home or even away, when I have the chance to do something like that, it is very special to me. So it was definitely something that was just, a little extra grounding to me and kind of helped me feel in my element, even though there was so many other discrepancies that was before I even went out there, to the moment before, the music started. It was a lot of stuff that behind the scenes that was going on. So that was really nice to have, that feeling of something familiar.
Right. They mentioned on the broadcast something about the gloves? Did that come into? Did that affect the lead up, or was that part of some of the pre-fight, issue or drama?
That was definitely most of the pre-fight drama, because we had an issue with the gloves at the weigh-in. Everybody who's, follows boxing, whether it be women's boxing or men's boxing, you at 147 and below, you fight at 8-ounce gloves.
That's it. That's correct. That's correct.
You fight at 10-ounce gloves, So, dropping from middleweight to welterweight 147, we already knew that we was fighting in 8-ounce gloves. And there was nothing that said we weren't. I signed a contract for 8-ounce gloves. So we go to the weigh-in, everything was good. We go to the glove selection, and there's a problem. She has 10 ounces and I have 8 ounces. And that was a problem because, everybody but the WBC has the same rule, 147 and below. The WBC is 135, but the California state rules is 147 and below. So every sanctioning body, the California commission, everybody was on board. I had no problem with my gloves. She was the one that had a problem with 10 ounces. She told the commission that she was not going to fight in 8-ounce gloves. She refused to fight. She will not fight me in 8-ounce gloves. She never fought in 8-ounce gloves, which I don't know how true that is or not. I have no idea. I don't know whether there was a miscommunication on her and her camp that they were fighting in 10-ounce gloves. I have no idea, but I do know that there was a big discrepancy. So she refused to fight, said she was not going to fight. The fight pretty much almost got canceled. I didn't really know it was a definite go until about an hour before we went to the venue to fight. So from the weigh-in all the way to the next day, well into the next day, they were going back and forth. And I finally said, you know what? I don't want this to jeopardize, future women bouts on HBO and any other major networks. I don't want to put a sour taste in anybody's mouth, HBO included, and have this whole thing just fall apart. Whatever. I'm gonna wear the 10-ounce gloves, even though this is not what I signed up for. But I don't want there not to be a fight over 2 ounces. You know what I mean? But whatever. I'll take the 10 ounces. So we fought in 10 ounces. We were able to get the Reis 10 ounces, and I kind of took that and ran with it and just said, you know what, forget it. I want to fight. So it is what it is. Give me the 10 ounces. Let's go. So if it really wasn't for me kind of saying, just give me the 10 ounces, there wouldn't have probably been a fight because she was refusing to fight in the regulated 8 ounces.
Wow.
And when we got to the venue, we had to do another glove selection. So that took another 20 minutes to a half hour in the time that I would normally have to settle in, go see the arena, kind of, do my thing in the back. So it was a mad rush in the back, picking gloves, doing this, the normal pre-fight, things that we have to do. And they were just kind of all pieced together, thrown together. And like I said, I didn't know it was a definite on until about an hour before we left. So,
wow.
Neither here nor there, but those are just the little things that before the fight, before the lights and the bell ring, you know what I mean? There was a lot of things going on before that. So on top of being HBO, a million viewers, fighting her, this place, it was a lot going on. But overall, it was a great experience. I learned a lot.
The good and the bad. Hey, I know you're not, I know you fighters aren't meeting one another to, everybody doesn't have the same rapport that we saw during the lead up to Sean Porter and Keith Thurman. I know some of you not always, don't know somebody on that level, but just watching her from home, she seemed a little different. That's the best way I can put it.
Yeah.
Did you get a sense of some of that? It was something a little extra about her
Like I said, I've never met her in person, but like I told you before in my last interview, she's been somebody that I've been watching her whole career, like since for a very long time, just in and out the ring, how she moves, what she does, and just kind of. So I've known her through watching her. I known her, enough to kind of know that it was different. There was something very different. Her energy was different. She didn't have that same domination energy that I was used to seeing on videos. You know what I mean? And I could say maybe it's personally because. I'm on that same, not maybe level as far as her career, but as far as being confident and knowing I was there to do a job, maybe that she knew I was there for business, hence the reason why she picked me as an opponent. So maybe she was just really focused, but she was a little off a little bit, as far as she was different for sure. Maybe too focused, very focused on the fight. I don't know, but it was definitely a different energy. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it seemed like even during the post-fight, the post-fight interview or something, it just seemed like her comments didn't flow freely. And I don't know, maybe the pressure of trying to impress, the USA audience and whatnot, maybe she was just caught up in the moment a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know what it was, but like you called it, it was definitely something that was different. I sensed something. Really, even the stare down is just, if you ever fought, you know how important the stare down is. You know what I mean? It was just something that was a little different.
Got you. Hey, so you drop her in the 7th, you stun her again once or twice after that. What's going through your mind? And have you watched the fight since and had any regrets, or was there something that she did that kind of held you off from being able to close the show?
No, I mean, had I had to take ounces, it would have been something different.
Well, we'll come back to that though. I'll put a pin in that, but that's on my next question.
Nah, it's all good. No excuses. You know what I mean? It is what it is. What happened that night is what happened that night, and my performance in the earlier rounds wasn't what I would have liked it to been. I did obviously things that we would like to change and do in the earlier rounds, but again, a lot of other discrepancies of trying to get things together before the fight. It was just crazy, but again, no excuses. I watched the fight many times, and there's just little tweaks that we definitely could have made, but I kind of figured it out by like the end of the 4th and going into the 5th. I started figuring it out and turning it up. There was nothing that she did that prevented me to close the show or anything. It was almost like just the late start is kind of what is on me, I guess you could say. After dropping her, I was like, I finally caught her with that right that she's been open with, and I was kind of confused a little bit because she popped up so fast.
Right.
I wanted to hit her again, but I didn't want to get in trouble. Like I was like, oh snap. So I know I needed that knockdown. I know I probably needed a knockout. You know what I mean? I was hoping that he wouldn't get back up, and the couple of times I stunned her too. In the past, in my earlier fights, I had a tendency to hurt somebody and then smother myself. So I wasn't trying to smother myself. I knew I had her hurt, but it was towards the end of the round. The bell rang. So had I had two more rounds, or maybe another minute, or maybe 8 ounce gloves, maybe something would have been different. But it is what it is. And I learned a lot that fight. So definitely want the rematch, and things will be a lot different in the rematch.
How'd you and your team grow from this? Because we saw your trainer pleading with you, to execute some things and to turn it up, and then you actually pull it off, and there was a lot of excitement in the corner after that, and then like I said, you did come up short in completing the comeback, but take us through some of that, because we're watching it at home and seeing all of it. But how'd your team grow from that?
We definitely grew. It was my first fight working with Danny in the corner. Like, it was my first camp working with Danny for the whole camp, and my first time seeing him in front of me in a fight. So that was definitely an adjustment. It was a learning experience. We kind of learned a lot off of each other, as far as delivery. How I respond to certain things, how you need to talk to me. So we definitely grew as a team. you know, there's my manager knows me very well, Brian, and my cousin, or is also my cornerman Matt, knows me very well. But it was, you know, Danny hasn't worked me in a fight yet, so it was a little getting used to with that as well in the earlier rounds, kind of getting used to his instructions and being used to hearing other things, but not, you know what I mean? There was just a little bit of adjustments that we made, but we definitely learned a lot from each other as far as how things need to be translated to me and what needs to be told, you know, kind of focus on certain things and how I respond to each individual and all that. So,
okay. Now, you know, us at home and who watched the fight, we weren't aware of, you know, everything that went on beforehand, what you just alluded to. But, you know, when we did our interview beforehand, you did mention that, you know, the plan was to make her very uncomfortable and to apply pressure to her and whatnot. And we didn't see that early on. I guess those things, you know, fed into it. If, you know, not being able to start warming up properly and, you know, having a whole day and a half in limbo. Is there any way to handle that differently moving forward? That type of uncertainty, I guess.
I mean, if something doesn't go right, it ain't right, really, with fighting. You know what I mean? There's always something that's always a last-minute problem or issue or something. And, you know, going through this in my career, I've always learned to kind of roll with it and just kind of just relax, and everything's going to be how it is. So when that whole thing was happening, I wasn't panicking. I was just kind of chilling. But, you know, in the back of my mind, am I fighting? Am I not fighting? You know, these little things that, you know, as much as calm as you can keep yourself, they're still in the back of your mind. But going forward, things always happen. So you just got to remain calm and kind of just keep your eye on the prize, so to speak. Very cliche, but I was very calm through it. It was just one of those things that, again, I have to, of course, bend over backwards and be like, all right, let me just take these 10 ounces. That's the only thing that I was kind of, I guess you could say, pissed off about a little bit, because, you know, I could have just said, you know, well, I'm not fighting in 10 ounces and went home. And then that would have been really bad for not me, but like women's boxing in a whole. This is a history-making fight, so I wasn't going to do that. You know what I mean? I put my foot down, but I can only put it down so much if I want to look at the whole, you know, in the long run, the whole overall, you know, not just me personally in my career,
right?
The overall look. So I couldn't do that. I wouldn't have been able to live with myself if I got on the plane and went home and, you know, had to do all this legal stuff with this fight. That wouldn't have done anything for me. That wouldn't have done anything for women's boxing. It probably would have pushed it back. You know what I mean? And it would have been a terrible show on HBO because the Triple G fight, you know, we're short. So,
right.
I mean, going forward, just handle it like I did. You know, just keep a sharp mind and stay grounded and calm and just kind of go with it.
Well, what point in the fight did you get back to feeling like your normal energy in the fight? I mean, we watch. You know, we got to see some of the 24/7s and the all accesses, and I mean, and we watch athletes all the time get prepared to perform, and then the UFC stuff that we get to see. I mean, I have to believe that it's a certain mentally, there's a certain buildup in a fighter to go in there and do what you're getting ready to do, and all of you having to handle all these business decisions and whatnot before a fight had to throw you off. So when did you get into it? When during the fight did you kind of feel like you normally do during a fight?
I mean, I felt good going into the fight. Like I said, there was I wasn't able to warm up, but it wasn't even it wasn't a feeling of feeling like how I usually do. It was a feeling of, it was a step forward. No matter win or loss, that fight wasn't a loss for me. It was a win-win. You know what I mean? And especially how I performed and the things I learned in that fight. And about the end of the fourth going into the fifth, what I realized, not, I feel normal. It was realized that I'm supposed to be here. And I'm actually, I can be better than her. Like, this is what she has. And there's so many other things in my arsenal that I got that I realized I need to, you know, put my foot on the gas, and I can compete with this girl.
Right.
Like, I'm supposed to be here. You know, I'm not just an opponent. I personally realized that in about the fourth or fifth round when I started turning it up. I'm like, yo, I just need to go out. I'm supposed to be here. That's what I realized. It wasn't realized that I feel normal. It was almost like a transition into the next level. Like, I'm supposed to be at this level. This is my level. This is why I earned my stripes. I got the skill. I got the drive. just go for it. That's what I realized. And about going into the end of the fourth, going into the fifth.
All right. Speaking of win-win, you're moving on and moving on to the next thing, and so it was exciting over the last week and a half when I started seeing the announcement for you June 30th facing Sylvia Shields at Mohegan Sun Casino in Uncasville. Everybody that watches boxing is pretty familiar with the Mohegan Sun and whatnot. But what's your outlook for the night? I mean, it's I think this is the return of Joe Smith Jr., who, had a nice buzz going on and whatnot. But you personally still getting some love, and adulation off of your performance on HBO. What's this, how is this fight coming together for you?
It's coming along great. I mean, I'm back in Philly, right back to my training camp. We're back to business. Hopefully we get to see the rematch, being formed real soon, but I'm not going to sit around and wait for that and not fight and stay busy. You know what I mean? So, I feel real good about this fight. We actually had an opponent change. I won't be facing Sylvia Shields because she's, I guess, tied into something else, right now. So we had to have an opponent change, but I mean, the whole night in itself, Joe Smith, I'm excited to see that. It's a really good lineup. The whole card, and fighting at home at Mohegan Sun. I love fighting there. It's, quote unquote home, so I'm close to home and just staying really busy. So I'm excited for the night, definitely.
And you'll be staying at welterweight for this bout?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna stay. I actually coming down. I feel a lot better, and there's a lot more things I can do. So we're going to stay down the welterweight, number one, because I feel comfortable. Number two, because I'm trying to wait for that rematch. I'm not going up until I get that rematch.
What's your confidence on, in the rematch? I mean, I heard her say it, but like I said, with some of the extra, vibe that I picked up off of her, I didn't know what she would, if she would keep her word or anything, or her team would go through.
I honestly think that was, because as soon as she started talking, it was nothing but booze. You know what I mean? So
right.
She was trying to talk over the booze in the crowd.
Right.
So I like you said, I think maybe at that point, as time goes by, maybe it was in the moment. But being who she is and kind of knowing how much work she put in, I don't think her ego is gonna push her and kind of nag at her to get back. You know what I mean? So hopefully, that's what I'm hoping for, that she'll give me the rematch.
That's your
But
leverage.
I honestly think, I think that she kind of just is saying that to say that in the moment. I don't know if she truly honestly wants the rematch, because I don't know if she truly honestly wanted to fight in the first place, especially after the whole glove thing, when she said she was petrified to fight me in 8. That's what she said, and she will not fight me in 8, and we saw why she wasn't going to fight me in 8. So who knows? I can't speak for her. I'm not her, but kind of like you said, seeing the dynamic of how she was before and after the fight, and I don't know. I don't know if it was just talk, but she was trying to say something to quiet those boos down.
Right. And I mean, that had to make her uncomfortable, and her family was ringside hearing her being booed and everything. Like I said, it was reason for her to kind of seem the way she was. But I mean, it also was mentioned several times about which kind of made her come off as sort of a villain of sorts, with the trainer change to Jonathan Banks before the fight and everything. So
yeah, that threw me off too. I walked in to do the glove change with Lucia, and I see Jonathan. I'm like, wait a minute, when the hell did he get here?
Right.
Come on, Mama.
So,
hi. Good, how are you? Go.
Oh, just a couple more questions. One of the other reasons, with in addition to recapping the fight and talking about your next fight, a week earlier before that jumps off will be the doubleheader for women on the SHOWTIME card on a Friday night on June 22nd. You're familiar with a bunch of the women that are fighting that night and been in the ring with a couple of them. So I just wanted to get your input on, it's our time to shine. You guys have raised the bar quite high, with the help of the, Triple G being in the ring and whatnot. But like I said, you guys did average the number of viewers that you did. But just to get your thoughts on the Hammer versus Tori Nelson matchup for starters?
I mean, due to being in the ring with Hammer twice and being in the ring with Tori once and seeing Tori's last performance, especially being at 160, because I know she's not too comfortable being that heavy, I think Hammer's going to walk through her. I mean, I don't really see Tori bringing too much to the table where Hammer has to be leery of, especially because the way Hammer moves, she has skates on in that ring. So, being that heavier with Tori, I don't think she's gonna be able to cut her off or get her. So I think that Hammer will definitely get that win. I think it's an interesting matchup. I wish I probably, if I could go, I would go, but I can't. I'll be in camp. Go ahead, Swamp 'em. Sorry, my dog's wilding out. But yeah, that's how I see the fight going.
So Hammer, she's talked a good game and talked about her explosiveness and how she, she's made it known that she wants to look better against Tori than what Claressa did in not losing a round. So I mean, she has her work cut out for her. But you just mentioned her movement and everything. What are some other things that we can look forward to and expect from her for those of us that haven't seen her in action just yet?
Like I said, she definitely uses the ring. As soon as she gets touched, she uses it a little bit more than most. She likes to likes to run. She uses her legs and she uses them well. So, but that's another one I caught in the last round, and she got up very slowly. I rocked her. I dropped her like a sack of potatoes, and she gets caught the right way. She's a little chinny, but she runs so much that you got to catch her. So she tries to use her boxing and use her legs. That's what you're going to see is a European fighter. I mean, if you guys are familiar with European style fighting, is boxing, pushing your head down, and using a ring.
All right. No, I mean, I would imagine, she's going to use her. She has the length advantage over Tori as well. So I don't know. I'm just, it's an interesting, like I said, I just haven't seen her fight yet, but she's talked very confidently and, kind of set some expectations out there for her. So I'm just wondering, can she deliver? And like you said, we know Tori's a little.
I'm wondering the same thing because she's gotten very, very mouthy the last couple of years. So she definitely talks a very good game, especially when Claressa came on the scene. She started talking a lot. So, I mean, hopefully she does look better against Tori than Claressa does, but I find that very unlikely.
Okay. That's kind of where I was with it. But let's move on to the main event of that night. It's kind of awkward. I don't think I've seen too many nights where there was a pair of vacant world titles on the line for two fighters. But the IBF and the WBA Middleweight titles are up for grabs between Claressa Shields and Hanna Gabriels. How do you see that one playing out?
I see Claressa using her speed against Hanna. Hanna doesn't stay still. She has kind of a little awkward style. So I definitely see Claressa might be a little faster coming down. Or there's a few things that can happen. She can either be faster or she can be a little bit too light and kind of not comfortable with it. So I really don't know. I think it's a good matchup. I'm excited to see it. I think Claressa's going to probably end up dominating when she figures her rhythm out and then take her from there.
Any chance you think we see I know Tori was on the show and she joked about, she made jokes about Claressa's power. Some other fighters have kind of made some comments about her power and whatnot. And we're not seeing the straight out knockouts, that people or fans tend to expect and whatnot. But I've seen Gabriels down before, so I'm just wondering, do you think it could be an opportunity for Claressa to get a knockout?
And I mean, if Claressa can deliver that nice, solid, clean punch like anybody else can, she has a lot of speed, but speed is power. So and Hanna has gotten knocked the hell out. So if she can deliver one of those stunning punches, I mean, anything can happen. I don't know about Claressa's power. I mean, she looks strong, but I haven't been in the ring with her, so I don't know. But I know Hanna's been down before, so I mean, it could happen again. I don't know. We just have to watch and see.
Right. Hey, well, look, Kaylee, thank you for your time tonight. I appreciate it. And like I said, it was great talking to you before the fight, and then to see you go in and have the moments that you had and mix it up. It was excellent. And I'm wishing you the best on June 30th, whoever you end up going in there against. Any last word for fans of women's boxing or fans of Kaylee Reis?
I'm just interested. What did Tori have to say about Claressa's power? What is she joking about? I want to know.
Oh, I mean, she just made it. She just made light of it and had a couple of training room jokes. Just just downplayed it greatly, and I can't. It was one line that she said that I kind of laughed afterwards. I can't remember what it was. I waste some time trying to figure it out, but she did. Either the way that she said it or what she said almost got a chuckle out of me as I was talking to her. Not that I didn't believe her or anything, but to just discredit Claressa's punching power altogether the way that she did, it was humorous.
Okay, I was just curious.
If I got some time to find the episode and the time that she said it, maybe I'll text it to you or something.
All right, that sounds good. But yeah, no, I'm just excited to be back in the ring and stay busy. My team is excellent, and I'm very happy with what I got. I'm so appreciative of all the new fans and followers I've gotten since I fought on May 5th. It's crazy amount of love and positive feedback I'm getting, and I really appreciate that. I'm gonna be around for a while, so this is just the beginning of seeing Kaylee KO Reis. So stay tuned, man. I'm not stopping until I get everything I want in this game.
All right, until next time. Hey, you take care.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, I want to welcome to the show for the first time a very special guest. Tonight we have on the line Franchon Crews-Dezurn. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Hey, first of all, thank you. Thank you for your time and linking up with me and everything. And I know you're on your way to training and everything, so I try to get you out of here relatively quickly. You got a big date coming up, and I just wanted to bring you on and let you be heard and let fans of the sport know a little something about you.
I appreciate it.
Hey, so we'll get to your fight. I just wanted to get into a little bit of background stuff first. Signed to Salita Promotions back in January, and a month prior to that, on your the write up on you on the webpage for Salita Promotions, it mentioned that you were considering retirement back in like December. So what's kind of changed? How has your outlook for the sport changed? Over the last 4 to 5 months.
Well, it's still unfortunate because I was actually supposed to fight in April, but I'm pushed back. I guess they're making their best efforts to get me fight. It's a lot of bullshit with boxing, but I love the sport itself. So I'm just, I just keep fighting inside and out the ring.
Okay. One of the things, when I first saw you a couple of years ago, back in November of 2016, was the first fight of Claressa Shields' career, which was the first fight for you too. Do you think that you all fought too soon?
Hello?
Did you hear me?
No, I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question, please?
No problem. The first time that we all of us that follow the sport closely, the first time that we learned about you on the big stage was your debut back in 2016, which also happened to be Claressa Shields' debut. Do you think that you guys met way too soon for, whatever the circumstances were?
once again, it's very unfortunate because I've been on many of big stages. I'm a 2-time world medalist, and I fought Claressa since 2012. So it was like clockwork to me. And I don't take losses lightly. I don't take getting bad decisions lightly, and I'll keep fighting until, I win. So, I mean, people know this is the problem with the female side of the sport and with the men's side of the sport. People want to be prize fighters, and they don't want to fight. Nobody would fight Claressa, so I stepped up to the plate because I know I'm about that life. I'm a prize fighter. I'm an elite A-class fighter. So I stepped up to the plate, short training camp and all, and set the standard high. I understand it's a business, but, I mean, it's always room. We put on a great show. It's always room to fight again in the future.
Okay. And that's why I said I just looked at your performance against her, and in the next few fights that we saw her in, I didn't really see anybody push her, and actually fight back the way that you did in your performance. So it just, in hindsight, I was looking at it like, well, maybe, they shouldn't have even been matched up at that point, and that could have been something to be built up to, in the future. But it happened when it happened.
Were you entertained?
Yes.
Were you entertained?
No, I'm not saying, I'm not complaining at all.
Look, listen. If we were to fight again, would you watch?
Definitely.
So it's like the crash course collision. We started at the same time. We both have different paths. When it comes again, we'll be different fighters with different experiences. So it'll be still an exciting fight, but a different fight. I mean, I'm a fighter regardless. I don't like coming up to the amateur rank. You might draw in a tournament. You might draw the number 1 seed. Well, I was the number 1 seed. You might draw a top 3 seed the first night. So that really doesn't make a difference to me. A fight is a fight.
Good word. What all else do you have? And we'll get to your boxing in just a second. But what all else do you have going on? I saw you singing the national anthem before fight. Seems like you into a little bit of fashion. You're going to college right now, attending college. What all do you have your hands in at the moment?
Well, I am a modern day Renaissance woman. Before boxing, I was my aspiration was to be a professional singer-songwriter. I have, accomplished that, but not the magnitude that I would like to. So I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm also working on fashion. I do boxing apparel, and I'm transitioning to regular clothing. Later on this year, I'll be attending a fashion institute in Maryland. What else? Yes, I'm in school. Trying to earn my bachelor's. Well, I'm going to earn my bachelor's degree. I work with my husband, Glenn Dezurn Jr. I have so many things. I do it all. Like, I love just being creative. I love being productive. I try not to waste time. And I want to get into some acting. I do public speaking. I do a little bit of everything.
Okay. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about your husband, Glenn Dezurn Jr. How's he doing?
How is he?
Yeah, how's he?
Oh, he's wonderful. He's a valiant warrior. In the second round, he risked his shoulder, so he reached his surgery. He's like, I'm the same mob. I'm not. We fight at the end. I don't give a fuck. You're not gonna you don't have to knock us down to stop the fight. And if people saw, he didn't stop the fight. The referee stopped the fight. So we just worked on healing and down to that in a good state. And he's actually going to the work out with me now.
Okay. I did want to get into one personal question, if you don't mind sharing with some of the listeners out there. I think you have a unique perspective because you're a wife of a fighter as well as a fighter yourself and a sparring partner at times to your husband and everything. So I just wonder, in a we've seen wives attend fights and we've seen some skip fights for certain opponents and everything, but as well or better than some of us that are watching a fight, what's happening and how things are unfolding. Can you share any emotions with us as you were watching the last fight with Glenn against Josh Greer Jr.? A very physical fight.
Yes. The last fight, we had issues going into the fight. It was emotional for me. Like the wife came on, but I know my husband. We're soldiers, and in war, you might see your comrade get shot dead in front of you. I'm not gonna stop fighting. If I show weakness, that's gonna make him feel weak. I'm gonna be strong. If he would have got knocked out, I would have picked him up in the ring, kissed him, and still held him to the highest standard. And it's emotional, but he said he was all right. So if he's still standing, I'm gonna support him until he can't stand anymore. I believe in him with my whole soul. I believe he can accomplish whatever he set his mind to, and he's a fighter inside and out the ring. So, I mean, for some wives not to show up for their husband's fight, when you get married, you take a vow through sickness, through health, for better or for worse. If he wasn't to come out the same fighter, I'm still going to take care of him and I'm still going to love him. No less. So, I mean, I can't understand why some women, I can understand why some women might not come because, you know, they're seeing someone they love, you know, fighting and possibly getting hurt. But I would rather be there than to not be in the room and come back and, you know, something went terribly wrong. You know, he has great coaches. He's a very well-conditioned athlete, a very great fighter. His coaches, you know, was going to step in whenever it needs to be. The referee did their job. He's still on his feet fighting. And as long as he wants to fight, I want to support him.
Did you what did you think? Or I saw that you reposted Josh's kind of his praise and salute to Glenn for his effort, and I think you as a couple and everything. You know, what did that mean for you, for him to come out and kind of you know, show a lot of class and sportsmanship?
My husband is a real man, and real recognized real. That's what you gotta do. You gotta salute a real one. And even though they got, you know, the day before it's away, they got a little heated, you know, Josh is a sweet guy, and we all see ourselves in each other as black men, black women, fighters, period. And you can't do anything but respect that. And that, trust me, that helped him. They both learned from that experience, and Josh gained new fans too, because people see how hard Glenn works. They see how dedicated he is. They see how selfless he is. If you don't like Glenn, something's wrong with you.
I agree with you. Do you agree with him though that that was Glenn's best moment in the ring, even though it was, you know, in a fight that didn't end in his favor and everything? He's he's a warrior every time he's been on ShoBox. But do you think some fighters say, you know, I need certain challenges to bring the best out of me? But
oh no, I'm sorry, but unfortunately and fortunately, Glenn has had to take the hard route. He, you know, in the beginning we had to fight, but he had to step up to the plate. When he fought Leroy DeVilla, he went from 4 rounds to 8 rounds because of believing in himself. And, you know, he's always up for the challenge. And he grew from that fight. As far as performance physically wise, no, we haven't seen his best. I mean, that wasn't his best performance, but the growth. You know, you could see Josh was researching and saw that the fight before when Glenn got in a tough situation, you know, it's a lot going on. He said, I'm trying. And Coach Barry said, we don't try, we do. And this fight, Glenn got hit with some shit. He, you know, his shoulder went numb in the second round. And he said, I want to die trying. I don't care. Don't stop the fight. I want to die trying. So, you know, physically we always want to grow. But I think as, you know, soul-wise, experience-wise, he grew as a fighter, of course. The best is yet to come, and everything happens for a reason, and I'm glad Glenn has his time to take off, reflect, heal, and rebuild, because when he comes back, you know, for himself, it's going to be amazing for us all, because this is what the sport is about. You know, people want to see Glenn win. I definitely want to see Glenn win. He wants to win.
All right. Actually in 2 weeks now, you'll be facing Crystal Byers from Ohio. I couldn't find out where she was from in Ohio. I'm actually located in Ohio, but you guys will be getting it in along with the I think they're billing it as It's Our Time to Shine, but a special edition of Showtime Boxing. Now, is your fight going to be televised?
No, I don't think so. I don't know, man. No, that's my knowledge. Maybe some highlights.
It seems like it's still being put together at this point. So I wasn't quite sure who they were airing, but anyway.
They're airing Christina Hammer and Claressa Shields.
Okay. But what can we expect from what is Crystal Byers? What is she facing 2 Fridays from now?
I apologize.
I said, what chances does Crystal Byers stand in her fight 2 Fridays from now facing yourself?
She's saying, you don't understand, right? I'm built up, and honestly, until I retire, I'm just going to demonstrate on each and every person in the ring because they don't belong in the ring with me. So, I mean, only thing she can do is train. As I said before, even on my speed days, it's better than most of these girls aging. And, I mean, I don't know. She's supposed to win, and hopefully she tries to win, but she's not going to win.
What do you think is separating your skills? I mean, we're getting to learn about Claressa. We'll finally get to get some eyes on Christina Hammer. We've seen a couple other females. Kay Taylor is doing some things. Michaela for Top Rank and everything. What's setting Franchon apart from the rest of the ladies that we're seeing?
Because I am one of the 4 mothers of it. Everybody, every American fighter you mentioned, you know what I mean? I've been around, I've been here, I'm consistent. What sets us apart is I have soul, I'm consistent, I'm not trying to be like anybody else. If I beat you fighting ugly, I'm going to, a win is a win. Like, I put my whole heart and soul into it. You enjoy watching my husband fight. That's me too. My skill set has developed. The fact that I've been here since 2005, still at the peak level, speaks volumes. Like Madonna or John Boulevard, I keep reinventing myself and get better,
All right. You breaking up just a little bit, so I'm kind of trying to listen a little hard. What's your expectations from what fans might see from Claressa and then Hammer and facing Tori Nelson? How do you see both of those fights playing out?
I mean, Claressa's going to come do what she's supposed to do. She's supposed to win. Christina Hammer's supposed to win, but she's doing it. That Tori's going to try to win and, fight hard or take a good beating. Whatever. I really don't care, unfortunately, because I want to fight on TV. I want to make a name for myself, but everybody's coming to do their job. And I'm sorry. That's all I have to say.
No, I hear you on that. Just with you and Tori being, somewhat in the same region coming out of the DMV, do you think it's a chance that she could pull an upset and kind of, overturn the apple cart with the build-up that they're trying to have for Hammer and Shields?
I mean, Tori's a tough cookie, and her style is uncomfortable for Christina Hammer. Christina Hammer likes to box on the outside. She's not an inside fighter. Tori knows how to make it ugly. She can take a punch, and she knows how to make it ugly and rough her up. So, I mean, anybody has a chance. It only takes one punch. But I think it's going to be pretty interesting.
All right. I know this is aside from the aspirations that you have in the ring. I just wanted to get just so we can talk up the women's side of the sport. Is there anything besides the Shields Hammer bout that they're trying to create? What would you like to see develop in the women's game in the second half of 2018 to kind of capitalize on the momentum that the women's game is gaining right now?
Well, I mean, it's growing. I know the day before me, you had 2 middleweight, superweight fighters. You have Alicia Napoleon fighting, then you have Raquel Miller fighting on the same card. So that's a great development. Fight in New York is always cool. I know Katie Taylor just had a tragedy with her father and some other people shot. But I would like to see her and Heather Hardy, and you got Kiera Brown this time with the Bella also. You know, Michaela and her have a trip to get off their chest. And I'd love to see Marlena Tanisha Estrada fight. It's a lot of fights. I would like the lesser known women to get some time too with Gil. That would be nice to also see happen. And I heard in New Zealand they have like an 8-woman heavyweight tournament going on, or supposed to happen in October. So I'll be paying attention to that because I am a light heavyweight down to middleweight. So.
Right. Now you and Byers are fighting at super middleweight?
Yeah.
Is there a division? You just mentioned you got plenty of range to cover. Is there a division that Claressa's moving down, so that leaves that should leave something vacant up there. Do you see a weight class or a weight division where you might settle down and try to and do your thing and focus on?
Well, I'm a super middleweight. Right now, and there's room for growth and improvement. And the beautiful thing is that I'm able to, with the right time and proper training, I can get down to middleweight. And it's nothing for me to fight light heavyweight. And to push the cards, I can fight heavyweight as well. So that's like 175, I believe. But I mean, anywhere I'm at is my home. I'm comfortable. I kick the shoes off.
All right, just my last two questions are just kind of Baltimore, Maryland specific. But you just as a fight fan, Gary Russell Jr. came out after his last fight, his victory over JoJo Diaz, and it was kind of the first time I really heard him calling out opponents the way that he did. And I believe that he called out or said that he entertained a fight with Gervonta Davis. Do you think that would be a big fight in the beltweight, for the beltweight?
Yeah, of course. And I don't know if he specifically called him out. But I think people to ask about it. And I mean, Gary's an elite fighter. He's an Olympian, top champion. That's just like me asking me to fight somebody and I'm supposed to back down. Like, be the best. You want to fight the best and beat the best. So, I mean, of course, the prize fighter in him would love to fight Tank possibly. It would definitely be a big thing in the DMV.
Right.
I mean, it's so many other choices, and class of styles, so many other choices, and so many other fighters that could be conquered right now outside of the DMV. That's what I would like to see.
Yeah, I'm not set on that matchup. I just saw, and actually, you're right. I really only saw. Maybe I might have turned away from the program that night or something, but I really only saw Gervonta kind of reacting on Twitter about it, and I kind of went back and loosely looked through some of the notes.
Yeah, Tank's in the process of calling out to Bell Harris right now.
I saw that. So nobody's safe right now with Tank.
Yeah, he's just doing his thing.
Okay.
He's just doing his thing.
So you mentioned some of the acting earlier on. I talk to whenever I talk to somebody from Maryland or Baltimore, I always got to reference The Wire. So I just wonder, were you a fan of that program back in the day?
I actually never seen it. I've seen some of it, but I never saw it because I walk outside and I see it. Oh, and let me tell you about this matchup. Tyresha Douglas, Lady Tiger Douglas. She's fighting. And she's a force to be reckoned with. And Sacred Downing just went pro. And so that's pretty tight too.
Okay. I had to look both of them up. Dang, so never ever seen. What about Glenn? Glenn wasn't a Wire fan?
I don't know. He watched. You gotta understand, it's different when you live here and live through it. My baby is from the west side of Baltimore. Like, he was born on the steps of Mosier Street. So he, people live through that. I don't think I want to see it glorified on TV.
That's true. That's true. That's a very true statement. That's a very true statement.
And I'm very cautious of what I watch and what I listen to, because that's what kind of selfless, or what you didn't think. So.
No, I think that's a great point, and I think that's something that's lacking right now, is people being conscientious of what they allow into their thinking and everything. But I thought that was a beautiful part of The Wire, was I felt that the creators and the writers and the directors and whatnot, I thought they went to great lengths to really humanize everybody, whether they were from the game side or whether they were from the law enforcement side.
One of the characters is loosely based off of one of Tank's coaches, Calvin Ford, which I knew, personally from coming up in some of the gyms in Baltimore. So, it was a great series. I watched it a couple times, but I'm a sci-fi
okay.
type girl.
Okay.
I'm so simple, it doesn't make sense. Like, I'm super complicated. I do all these things, but I'm so simple.
Okay, so you said you're on the science fiction type thing. Okay, I follow. Okay, now.
Like, I like Lucy and Ghost of a Shell, and I like anime and all that.
Okay, I got you. I was actually gonna check out Ghost in the Shell this weekend, so maybe
I like it.
Maybe we
Glenn, that's who you talk to. He likes all those mafia and like real life movies and stuff.
Okay, so maybe I'll give you my Ghost in the Shell review when we get up to Detroit in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'll appreciate that.
A very last question. Who has the best hair in Maryland between you and Jared Hurd?
The best hair?
The best hairstyle. Who gets the most love?
No. See, he keeps his all done. Like, when I'm training, I'm, like, rough. I'm just wild. I'm going to give it to him because he's bad and bougie. I give it to her. He's cute. He all right.
Yeah.
He keep it tight.
I just, you can't crack no jokes on a man when you do the type of work that he does. But I do admire the attention that he pays to his hair. Or it seems like he invests in keeping his crown together.
Well, I do my own hair, and when I'm ready, when I'm on, I'm on. But I've learned to not be so, I guess, superficial. Because, like, if I look good for me, I'm good. But it's sometimes Glenn be like, look, Big Mama, you look kind of rough. You need to go fix yourself up. When you married, it's a little different. But, yeah, I like to look nice. I'm cool, but I try to be comfortable in whatever I'm in. Like, I'm going to the gym. I look terrible, but I'm cool with it.
Okay. That was it. Like I said, again, I appreciate you for giving me some of your time, and I look forward to speaking with you up at the fight. Again, I'm a big fan of your husband and what he has going on, and I hope to see him bounce back. I look forward to seeing him bounce back. Any last word for fight fans out there for, to give you a chance to speak from your heart to anybody that's checking for Franchon Crews-Dezurn?
Yes, I appreciate the support for the Heavy Hit Diva and Team Dezurn. It's bigger than boxing. You're seeing people fight with their heart and soul, and it's a couple of real ones over here. So if you support us, you're supporting the real deal.
Now, do you watch basketball?
I guess, sort of.
I just because this episode is gonna get posted tonight, I just wondered if you thought LeBron was gonna be able to get a game or not out of this. The game for us tonight, they could get swept. Do you think he was gonna be able to get a victory, or is it over for him?
I mean, at the end of the day, win, lose, or draw, you can't take anything from LeBron, and he's gonna play with his whole heart and soul. So anything is possible. Anything is possible. I would hope. Everybody want to see a comeback story, so I would hope that he can help put the team back in contention. But it depends. I don't know. I believe it's possible.
Okay, we'll leave it at
I
that.
wish Glenn was here to answer that for me because he's the one watching all of it.
Okay. Hey, well, I'm gonna keep an eye on Glenn, and maybe the next time when he gets his next fight set up, maybe he'll give me a couple minutes of his time. Like I said, it's been great speaking with you, and I wish you the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Like I said, I hope you stay healthy the next 2 weeks, and there's no slip up, and maybe.
Man, if I got one arm, my husband can fight 6 rounds with one arm. I could fight 6 rounds. I could fight 6 rounds with no arms. Like. That's just how we do.
All right. All right. Hey, enjoy your training tonight and take care.
All right. Have a good night.
Thanks.